Welcome back to JDM Legends presented by Turn 14 Distribution. Today we talk about camshafts, we rip the RB apart, put it back together, all in the name of building a reliable setup to mop up that 2JZ Supra. So before we get into why we've removed so much off this RB, DP, let everybody in on our little conundrum here with the Permatex Black. I think we use the Ultra Black.
Yeah, it's weird. You can see it's still wet where it was sitting, where this pump was sitting up against these grooves in the flange on the sump. In all these grooves, it's still wet, but where there was just like, you know, flat to flat contact, it was dry as you'd expect it to be, but I've never seen it where you pull something and it's still wet like this after, what, 4 days or so, Pete?
Yeah, 4 or 5 days.
But I don't think I've ever had to pull a pan 4 or 5 days later either, so just curious if this is typical of a scenario where there's like a pocket where it doesn't dry within 4 days, like maybe it needs a heat cycle, it needs the motor to run or something before this dries properly, or if we have a problem, like either this Permatex has gone bad or it's just not the right thing for this style of pan where it has these deep grooves in it.
Now on to why we tore everything apart. First of all, thank you to everybody that did post comments about the various issues that we have with this engine. Again, we are not experts when we're putting these things together, so I'm just doing some internet research, and what the internet research said was bolt on an oil pump such as this will alleviate all the problems with the gear and increase your oil pressure and provide you with more volume. However, the struggle with that is some of you did comment and say that by increasing the volume, what you're going to do is you're going to run your sump dry when you're on track. And whether that is a thing that would have happened to us or not, it's highly unlikely for us for that to happen at the racetrack that we're at Toronto Motorsports Park with the amount of laps that we do. We're not out there doing 10 to 15 laps. We're not pushing the car at full throttle for very, very long periods of time. So odds are we would have been safe using this with the baffle and the small little drain backs here. Tomei certainly does recommend going to a larger oil pan. Or adding a larger sump in the oil pan, but they don't say you have to. So when I spoke to them, they were like, it's recommended. It certainly can work for others, and this is certainly a application by application basis in these types of scenarios. The other option would have been leaving the Tomei oil pump on and then adding a bunch of modifications to the engine to make it work proper. One being a restrictor that needs to be added between the head and the block. That's something that we didn't want to do. I didn't want to do because obviously that meant taking the engine further apart. And you may also have noticed I did remove the outlet pipes here. And those have come off because one of you guys reached out on Instagram, said, hey, I got a buddy who's selling a set of Tomei outlet pipes. So I did buy those. They are via en route, and I think they're worth the upgrade. After doing a bit more research, having the largest possible diameter area here to pull the exhaust out is a big thing for spool and efficiency. So I think it's a worthwhile upgrade, especially now before we put everything back in. It has been a few days, and some of the parts that I have purchased have started arriving. You can see these are used Tomei outlet pipes. Thanks to TJ and Andrew for hooking me up with TJ. The downside is though, with them being so much bigger, I don't know if you guys can see this, they are super close to the compressor housing on the turbo here. The factory ones are actually pretty close. These are next level. So I think what I'm gonna do is wrap these in some header wrap just to reduce the heat that's gonna be transferred into here. I always forget how nice it is to use power tools when you get into a situation like these outlet pipes where you've got a wrench and you're just turning it, and it does take so long. Power tools are amazing. The Milwaukee cordless stuff is just, it has spoiled me. Anyways, these are now bolted, and you can see it is a very, very tight fit here, but this outlet pipe does fit. I'm glad I wrapped everything. I think it turned out pretty well. I just started bolting the rest of the items on here. I was about to do the turbo drain tubes, and we do have a problem. I thought these turbos were supposed to be 100% bolt-on, but they're not, because the return drain, you can see, so this is a Garrett style return drain, and this is the stock Nissan one. And the line, the bolts, first of all, you can see the spacing on them is different. So these are actually more shallow. So this is like an aftermarket return drain for a Garrett style, but I would have to figure out how to clock it properly, go get a barb that would be at this angle, and it's not, I don't think it's feasible. I mean, it's doable, but I'm trying to keep everything OEM. So what I'm gonna do is modify this one by like just drilling these holes down a little bit, and then we'll go from there. Side. I also opened up the gasket, the OEM Nissan gasket here, up to the smaller size. I am not going to trust just the gasket though. We're gonna come in with a bit of Permatex Ultra Copper as well, just for the sake of it, because I am a little worried. Like this isn't a huge pressure source, so it's not a huge deal, but at the same time, if this leaks, as you guys can see, getting to anything while this is in the car is gonna be a pain in the butt. And of course, the saga does continue. I did not order these drain return hoses, and who would have guessed they are rock hard when I went to install the rear one specifically. The front one isn't too bad. The rear one here decided to crack. You can see right there, all the way through to this point here. If it was here, I would have left it, but no, it had to go all the way where it's going to leak. So the solution is this blue colored hose here. We went to a hydraulic shop. They have this stuff, it's rated to 212 degrees Fahrenheit, so I think it's gonna be okay.
Rated for oil too.
And rated for oil, of course. But the problem is, you can see the bend that this has is not very severe, but just enough where this hose was buckling. Here it is, as it is. You can see it's very soft. And as soon as we try to bend it like that, you can see it is now doing what you do not want it to do. And that's gonna restrict flow. So we actually grabbed, upstairs I had this cool product from Vibrant, and this is the spring that you wind and put inside the hose. You guys probably can't see it there, but you can wind it in there. It is called Inner Support Spring. Mm-hmm. It's a -10 size. I've now wound it inside of here, and man, it does such a good job. So you can see here now, if I bend it, it actually doesn't fold and collapse. So I think this is gonna work. What I'm gonna do as well is come in with some Vibrant sleeve here, this support or heat sleeve. Yeah, fire sleeve. I think we're gonna make this work. this is gonna take another hour, and now you guys probably realize why everything does take forever, because you run into a small problem here, and it just spirals out of control.
Bro, can we get back to work on the Super, please? I'm kind of getting bored just waiting for this RB to get finished.
Listen,
are you with me, viewers? Are you with me?
Rome was not built in a day, right? Right? Finally got the hose on here and a little bit of that heat sleeve, fire sleeve, and it seems to be working good. I'm not 100% on this, truth be told, so what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna order the original hoses from Terra Firma, I think, and then if they arrive in time before we put this thing in, then great. If not, this will work. I'll just put a bit of this like heat wrap on it as well. So that's kind of like the last thing I think that would be good to add a little bit of protection. But I just forgot, one of the other things that I do need to modify is the oil feed line to the turbos. These turbos are ball bearing turbos, which means they do not require as much oil as the journal bearing turbos. So I'm gonna have to weld this up and then drill a smaller hole to just reduce the amount of oil running to the turbos. I'm so desperate to get everything together and quickly. The universe is fighting me every step of the way here. What I've hit here, the snag here, is kind of next level. These are freshly zinc plated pipes from Ian over at Remade in USA. And I was going to thread this up. These are the coolant lines that run to the turbos and all that jazz. And thinking, you know what, this is gonna thread in here. And I start threading this, and I get about less than 2 turns, and you can see now it has stopped. It feels like it's starting to cross thread. So I'm like, naturally, okay, well, does that mean that this fitting is cross threaded? Well, let's try it somewhere else. And if I take the junction here and screw it in, oh look, the fitting goes in without an issue. Well, that's kind of weird. Okay, so maybe this here is the issue. But then if I try this fitting here, and I put it in, get it lined up here and going. Look at that, it goes in all the way too. What, like, so if that threads into there, this threads into here, but these two don't thread into here, what's my problem, DP? I have, let me show you. This is my original one, but it's nowhere near as pretty as this one. Look how nice this looks. I mean, we could try to clean this up a bit, but it's not gonna look as nice as this. Like, look at this shiny little zinc. It's gonna match the other side. So I desperately wanna use this, but I'm gonna spend like another 10 minutes on this, kind of like looking at it, and if it doesn't work, I think I'm gonna have to abandon it and cry and install this. See, it's weird, like, look, there's not a ton of resistance. Mm-hmm. It's not cross-threading, but it's hung up on something.
Now it's going smoother, it looks like.
It is going smoother. See, now there's less resistance. I think I've passed the hurdle. What's going on? Look, there it is. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, well, at least it's in here. I can get all of this stuff bolted on, looking fresh again, but please, post in the comments. Explain this theory of what is going on here, because I just don't know. But the important thing is, it is now through. Look, I can spin it at the end. Oh, So it spins here, but it doesn't spin when you're trying to screw it in. I don't know. Let's get this all done.
I know you're not going to use this, PT, but advice is if you can't get it in the hole the first time, just try a little harder.
Some of you commented that we did not put any gasket maker on these front cam caps, and it was peculiar because I checked the manual that we have and it doesn't say you need to do that. However, after talking to some people, a lot of you guys are right. It's a safe thing to do. Technically, this is covered by the valve covers, so you know, any leaks should not get anywhere, but we're gonna do it anyways. And Radek from RS Tuning, again, who builds a lot of these, he's local with the RBs. He recommended this stuff, which is the Permatex anaerobic gasket maker. So I'm using that, and just a very, very thin layer. If you guys look, you can see there are some galleys here that run and will pull oil out, I think, and you don't want to plug those, I assume. So I'm gonna do that to both caps here, and then we can put this back on and have no leaks, or, you know, maybe just feel good about it. That gasket maker down, I am now torquing everything to these cam cap nuts to 7.2 foot-pounds. And I know some of you are probably looking at these cams thinking, oh my goodness, Peter, are these Tomei USA cams? Are these the same cams that WhistlinDiesel or Cody on his YouTube channel, he bought two RBs, and are these the same cams that broke in his RB engine? Are you worried about what happened to him happening to you? And the answer is no, I am not, because I am confident that I installed these cams correctly. They were torqued down properly. They were fitted in a sequence that evenly distributed the load. And for those of you that, you know, have jumped on the hype train there, just remember WhistlinDiesel's channel, he is about destroying things. His whole business model is about, you know, buying stuff and destroying it. I think there's more to the story that we didn't see. He oddly didn't show any of, you know, the prior driving. As a YouTuber, when you're filming stuff, usually you buy a car, the first thing you do is bust out the camera and be like, look, I just bought this car. Anyways, I don't want to go into, you know, accusing him of anything or not. I don't think he maliciously blew those engines up or anything like that. I think it's a very typical situation, a situation that usually happens. Someone goes out and buys a highly modified car that they haven't really done their due diligence on. And if you look at that vehicle, it was claimed to have 760 horsepower, wheel horsepower, whatever it was. It was, you know, backyard built per se. When that shop tore it down, it looked like it was overheated. My theory is the tensioner, the cams were installed incorrectly. There was too much tension on the timing belt, which in turn caused too much load on it, which snapped that cam. Now I know you're thinking, oh my goodness, that should not happen, whether that is loaded up or not. If the cam is overheated and gets brittle, or when it does get overheated, cams do become brittle. This is a very long cam. It's an oversized cam. These pond cams are 262. So if he was running pro cams, they're even more duration. And the way you install them is so critical to that. So anyways, like, I'm not gonna go into the full subject of like how, why, what happened. I think there was an installation error on that. Stock cams have also snapped. There are people out there that have snapped stock OEM RB cams because they have installed them incorrectly. So this is not a whole thing of like, oh, these are cast out of sand, they break if you look at them kind of thing. No, they do break. Like, I'm not gonna say, you know, these are cast out of the strongest material out there. I don't know that, but what I do know is there are hundreds of cars running these cams without issue if they're installed correctly. So am I worried again? I am not. If you've got you know, some time and you want to have an RB expert dive into this, Tomei Effia did a great video explaining the details of what he thinks may have happened in that car and the whole debacle that has gone on there. Sadly, I think it's, you know, given a bad name to Tomei about it, but again, I think that is a misjudgment. I think it's a situation of people not installing the cams correctly. So I'm gonna leave it at that, and we're gonna now move on. And as you can see here, I do have a replacement Hypertune baffle from PRP. I can finally bolt up the valve covers here, and I don't know what it is with these Hypertune baffles. I'm just not winning here. You see this here, guys? These little plastic pieces in the valve cover baffle are hitting these. These on the website specifically state work with stock valve covers. So I don't even know anymore. What am I supposed to do here? I think I'm just gonna take these little, I think they're like drain tubes off of here because I don't know what else to do at this point. Solution here, snapped these little plastic pieces off. I don't even know what they are. I think they're like drain returns out of here. So now this should fit up here without any obstruction. I just wish companies like this would just include a little bit of instruction on the website. Noobs like me doing these jobs, installing these for the first time, you think it's such a simple thing, but you do run into some little things like what kind of nuts to use, what do you do with these baffles? Like, just put that stuff on the website. It would go such a long way, I think, to supporting your customers. And just like that, all my frustrations have gone away because when I look at this valve cover and how sexy this engine looks with everything, it just reminds me of glory and goodness and what the RB truly is about. So real quick, some of you guys mentioned this 90-degree fitting mounted to this link fuel pressure sensor is going to be a problem. It could be a point where this could break off and cause, catastrophic failure per se. I spoke to a bunch of people, including Radium, and that is not the case here. This should be fine. Obviously, if you're in a race car environment where your engine's gonna see constant high RPM, you may want to remote mount this. In this case, it will be good. And the reason is, this is actually mounted parallel to the crank. So the frequencies and resonance and all of the vibration does not get transferred as badly if this was mounted 90 degrees. 4 cylinders though, they aren't as well balanced as 6 cylinders like this, inline sixes. So you do not want to take this sensor and mount it like this on a 4 cylinder. On these types of engines, you are good to go. Since I'm gonna be running a Link ECU on here, I also wanted to add another sensor. We already have that fuel pressure sensor. I wanted to add an oil pressure sensor. And that is because if we do have a sudden drop in pressure, either fuel or oil, I wanna be able to build in a strategy onto that Link so that it does save the engine from catastrophic failure. In order to mount this oil pressure sensor, what I'm gonna do here is I've removed the factory oil pressure sensor out of here. I'm going to tee into it, as you can see right here, and then mount this guy such as like something like this. However, this is not an NPT fitting like I have. This is a BSP thread pitch, so I do need to go out and get a proper BSP thread pitch. One of the reasons why I have to mount this here is because of the plug. It doesn't have much wiggle room, so I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to get it on here. But as you can see, this is just a quick little tidy setup. It's going to remote mount this thing, and I think it's going to keep it out of the way, so you're not going to really see it. I think all in all, this is going to work pretty well as a good solution here. All right, guys, I am going to have to wrap this video here because I got to get this video done for tomorrow for you guys to watch, and I wish I had gotten a little bit more progress done, but as usual, things are just taking a lot longer. Speaking of things taking long, I did order some parts and they are still in the mail. They haven't arrived. The oil pan, I looked at solutions to adding a sump, and really just time-wise, there's nothing that's gonna happen there. So sadly, you guys will find out what I'm doing with the oil pump for the next episode. But another important thing that a lot of you may be happy about, and that I was able to do, is look, there it is, people. The crank pulley bolt is minty fresh looking black. There was a lot of you that were triggered with it being rusty in the last episode, and I know, some of you may have thought I was putting it on one final time, but that wasn't the case, so I did remedy this. Come on, you wouldn't think I would leave this rusted.
That, my friends, is what carbon fiber looks like. This is a Shine Auto rear diffuser in full carbon, and we ordered this along with a Riddick style front bumper and side skirts, thinking we would give this car a really aggressive look.